Hello. It's very nice being at this festival, and people have asked me to come and talk about. Hello, Tina. talk about myself. It's not really my favourite subject. I'd rather talk about other people. I'd rather watch a film or something. Anyway, yeah. So I thought I'd talk about myself. Anyway, I usually, I've got this habit when I'm writing anything, I always write it in the third person, and I talk about Nick doing this and doing that and making a total twat of himself and, you know, sort of having delusions of grandeur and so, yeah. I suppose most people are quite interested in that band Hawkwind that I formed some time ago. I got bored with it, you know, so I left. So yeah, I sort of got involved in Hawkwind. I was thinking about this. You know, I used to live I was brought up in Kent, near to Margate. And spent quite a lot of my misspent youth on Margate seafront with all the mods and the rockers and stuff going on. And at one point I had a friend whose dad imported fancy hats from Spain or somewhere, or Italy, and he gave us sort of credit, unlimited credit. So we had a couple of shops on Margate seafront, and we were selling sort of sun hats and buckets and spades and naughty postcards and I used to sell lots of sort of psychedelic paraphernalia as well, you know, joss sticks and posters of Jimi Hendrix, International Times and those sort of underground magazines. And I used to look after I used to get these mods to come up and say, here look, we just robbed a chemist shop, we threw a dustbin through the window and we've got these drugs, can you look after them for us? And I said, oh, okay, if you like, you know, I'm not into drugs particularly, you guys all seem to have a really good time, how do you do it? And they said, oh, do you want some Purple Hearts? And I said, oh, alright. So I tried them a bit, and I wasn't really that enamoured of them. I was busy anyway, running his shop and selling all my psychedelic gear. I had a Volkswagen car which I bought in Holland at one point, and we used to go from Margate to London. We get about 10 people in my Volkswagen car, and we'd take lots of LSD and go completely be mad and drive to London and sort of go to an all-nighter at the Roundhouse and see like Pink Floyd and all these sort of bands and take LSD. And yeah, so during my winter times or sometimes in my summer times I go to Holland. I got involved in this sort of rock and roll circus while I was there. It's quite interesting. I had some friends of mine that I'd worked with and sort of I roaded for these bands as well while I was over there. There's this guy called Davy Jones who was a black guy from New York, and he did a James Brown sort of look-alike sort of show where he'd sort of sing all these really soulful songs, and at some point when I used to have a carrier's bag around, it just had his stage clothes in it and a towel, and during the show he'd sort of get really emotional and fall into the audience. And quite often they used to sort of let him hit the floor. I used to have to rush onto the stage looking really sort of concerned and mop his brow with a towel, and he'd sort of get up and sort of push me away and grab the microphone again, you know. And then after that we'd spend the night going around Amsterdam getting drunk in all the bars with all his mates. That was quite fun, and I got involved in this rock and roll circus while I was there, and it's called Tent 67. They used to have bands. It was like a big marquee. It was on the back of a big Pantechnicon lorry, or big flatbed lorry, and the flatbed was a stage. It had a sort of a piece that came out and sort of made it twice the size. That was the stage, and the tent. We had to put the tent up every day. There's about 4 of us,
and this tent had 9 poles, and it was huge. Held about 3,000 people, and we used to have to put it up every day, you know. And there was me and 2 Dutch guys, and these other 2 guys from Rotterdam who they got them from Salvation Army, so they were alcoholics. It's crazy, putting this thing up, holding the pin while this alcoholic hit it with the sledgehammer. So they used to have all these bands used to come out from Amsterdam. I used to give away flowers and work in the bar at this time, and paint the wagons. And they had all these bands used to come out from Amsterdam that were playing in this sort of extravaganza, and they'd all ask me to write down the words for all the songs because they didn't know them in English. It was quite cool. But one of the bands that came out there was a band called Dave Brock's Famous Cure, and they were playing there. And I met Dave and Mick Slattery, and I think they were both on the run at the moment. For the police were after them for having dealings with young girls, I think, you know. But anyway, you know, we palled up and sort of, you know, had a nice time together, and then sort of I just kept in touch with them after that, and then I went to Berlin around this sort of time and met all these free jazz musicians who they said, well, you don't have to be technical to express yourself. And so I sort of thought, wow, you know, I'll play free jazz in a rock band, which is what I did. And I kept in touch with these guys, and then they told me they were getting a band together, and I had this van that I used to drive around in. I used to live in the back of it, and I said, oh, I've got a van, you know, I could be a roadie. And I said, oh, okay. And I'd previously learned to play the saxophone after a fashion, and I sort of happened to have it with me, and they said, oh, I said, I've got my sax with me, shall I play it? They said, oh yeah, have a go. So I got my saxophone out, and we played this sort of weird music. And I played all this free jazz, and they said, wow, that's great, do you want to join the band? So it wasn't Hawkwind at the time, it was called Group X, and then we went and did this gig down in, we gate crashed the gig that was involved with John Peel, and we went to the All Saints Hall. We were rehearsing at the Royal College at the time, and everybody was saying, oh, let's go to this gig and let's play there. And we just go there and storm in. So we went down there and we said, oh, can we play for 10 minutes? And they said, oh, well, I suppose so. Nobody's playing at the moment, so we just sort of set up our equipment and then played this one song, which is called, we called it Sunshine Special. It's actually a John Coltrane riff from, and the Birds used it in that song 8 Miles High. They were sort of stranded in the desert. The only record they had was a John Coltrane of Africa and India, I think. So we played this song, and we all got really stoned before we played. This just became the sort of habit of what we did. And John Peel thought it was great. I think that he thought we were punks before there were such things. And he sort of recommended the organisers of the event to give us a management deal and try and get us a record label and all these sort of things, which they did. So then we went in the studio, and we then called ourselves the Hawkwind. It was a sort of mixture of my sort of habit of clearing my throat and farting. But it was also influenced by Michael Moorcock's creations, because there was a character called Hawk Moon who, that's all he did was to clear his throat and fart. No, I'm only kidding. So yeah, we sort of got involved in this band. We just said take any gig we could get, and it was great fun. It was Dave Brock, it was myself, it was John Harrison. Unfortunately, he died a little while ago, I'm told. Bless his soul. He was a very nice man. He used to play with Joe Loss's orchestra, and so this was a group of people that were very disparate. We had Terry Ollis, whose family was scrap metal dealers, and we had Dick Mick, who I'd met in Margate, who was a speed dealer, but he sort of reformed. he reformed to play in the band. And who else did we have? We had Mick Slattery as well. Yeah, it was really quite a jolly band, because I'd met him in Holland. And yeah, it was really cool. We used to do any gig we could get. We just play everywhere. We do free gigs, benefit gigs, anything, or just play for fun. And we got involved with Robert Calvert was a mate of mine from Margate, and he and I used to go out and get drunk and stoned all the time. And then he was a manic depressive, and he was sometimes extremely exciting to be with because he wouldn't stop talking, and he just sort of completely wear you out because he'd stay up for 5 days and you'd have to sort of sit with him and listening to him till you passed out, you know. And he turned up in London. You know, I mean, he was one of the guys that used to come in my car when we had 10 people in my VW. We used to go to London to score as well. Robert came to London, and he saw that I was involved in the band. I said, "Oh, you know, you can join my band if you want sometime." And he thought that was a good idea. But he did some. Had literary aspirations. And he was doing some work for this underground newspaper called Friends, and Michael Moorcock was also working on this Friends magazine, and Robert was a great fan of Michael's, and so Robert got involved with the magazine doing editorial on science fiction stuff, and Robert met Barney Bubbles, who was the art director of the magazine, and he introduced me to him, and we got on really well. We found we had such a lot of things in common about a sort of astrology and astronomy and sort of mythology, and he invited me to live at his house. He said I couldn't sleep in that cupboard. So I slept in the cupboard in his house for quite a time. And this was a
was it a big cupboard?
No, just big enough to sleep in. And he was a fantastic designer, and I was really impressed with his work, and I thought he had a record coming out because we'd made an original Hawkwind record, and we'd been in the studio. We just recorded the whole band playing a gig, did that twice, and then picked out the best bits. We had Dick Taylor playing on it, the guitarist from the Pretty Things, and so we put that album out. That was really cool, and then we were going to put a new album out called In Search of Space. Well, Barney called it In Search of Space, called it X In Search of Space. And he and Robert put together this booklet, which was all based upon weird and wacky science fictional sort of ideas and theories, coupled with a lot of sort of mythological sort of ideas from all different mythologies. And Barney had the idea of, Robert as well, had the idea of creating a spaceship that had become two-dimensional, and that was what the album cover was, and the plastic disc in it was the record and the dreams of all the people that were in the spaceship. So Robert became involved with that, and he and Barney put the thing together, and the band put the music together, and we went in the studio, and Dave Anderson said, "I've got this great riff, have you got any words?" And I said, "Oh, what riff's that?" And he said, it sounds quite familiar, doesn't it? You are the center of this universe. The wind of time is blowing through you.
I've turned this into that third person sort of thing that I was talking about, because originally I wrote it like, I am the centre of this universe. Me, I am the centre of this universe. The wind of time is blowing through me, and it's all moving relative to me. It's all a figment of my mind, in a world that I've designed. You can join in. I'm charged with cosmic energy, and has the world gone mad, or is it me? Yeah, so Dave Anderson said, yeah, I've got this riff, and I said, oh yeah, okay, I've got some words for that, that'll do. I went, it's poetry, you know, I write poetry all the time, and it's nice to find some words that fit a song that fits the words. I don't know how, a lot of people write, I think it's actually easy writing songs if you write the tunes with the words. So I'm going down tomorrow to whatever, do you know what I mean? Rather than writing words and then having to try and find a rhythm that fits with it. Although I did write Brainstorm as a sort of... Did somebody say Brainstorm? Yeah! I can't remember how it goes. Play that anyway. So yeah, Dave Brock said, oh, I've got this tune. I said, well, how's it go, Dave? I said, that reminds me of another tune that I heard lately that Dave Anderson told me he'd written it. Oh, Dave Brock said, I wrote it. So I said, well, I won't argue with you, but do you want some lyrics for it? He said, yeah, done. So anyway, we did a lot of songs like that. It was quite fun, you know. I think I did another one which Dave Anderson said, look, I've got this riff, Nick. I said, oh, how's that go then, Dave? How's it go? The golden age of future come, that which has dreamt of in the past, where minds communicate with love, minds rich in wisdom to the last. We are the children of the sun, and this is our inheritance. No longer chaos and confusion, but love and laughter, song and dance. Etc. Yeah, we produced the album, and Robert and Barney designed the cover, and then we put the thing together, and it was great. People loved it. I loved it. It sold quite a few records, I think. But then there was all these problems within the band. You know, you sort of might have noticed the number of the sort of turnover of personnel in the band was quite large, really. You know, we started off with John Harrison and Mick Slattery in the band, and then they'd gone, and we had Thomas Quimble playing bass, and we had Hugh Lloyd Langton playing guitar, and then Dave Anderson played bass, and then Lemmy played bass, and then Dick Mick left. Oh yeah, Dick Mick and Del were in the band as well, I forgot to mention them. Yeah, so we had quite a lot of turnover in the band, and you know, they came and they went, and they came and went, and Dick Mick came along and said, "Oh, my mate wants to play in the band." I said, "Oh, does he play bass guitar?" Because Dave Anderson had just left, and he said, "No, he plays guitar, but he learnt to play guitar roadieing for Jimi Hendrix." I said, "Oh, that sounds interesting. What's his name?" He said, "Oh, Lemmy." Oh, okay. So bring him down, and then he came down to the studio. He didn't have a bass, but Dave Anderson had left his Rickenbacker in the cupboard. So Lemmy borrowed Dave Anderson's Rickenbacker, and then at this time Robert Calvert was sort of designing this epic extravaganza, which he called the Space Ritual. And so Lemmy was involved now, and one of Robert's songs was out of the Space Ritual was a song called Silver Machine, and we went into the studio. I didn't think it was a particularly good pop song, but we went into the studio and recorded it, and Lemmy did the vocals. He claims that everybody was jealous of him because he did the vocals and he'd only just joined the band. Well, I didn't care. So we put this new show together, the Space Ritual, with Barney Bubbles, and Mike Moorcock was involved. Robert Calvert started doing poetry readings with Hawkwind, and he was going in this sort of space direction, really. And we had Mike Moorcock doing readings as well when Robert couldn't make it, and Mike Moorcock sort of contributed quite a lot of his stuff. It's all very exciting, really. It's quite wow. I thought, fucking hell, all I was doing was just selling hats on Margate Seafront. No. And yeah, so we sort of put the show together with this guy, Liquid Len, who'd Jonathan Smeaton, who was a sort of lighting genius, I suppose you call him. He's quite amazing. Him and Barney put a lot of lighting ideas together that were really fantastic, and Barney sort of worked out this whole astrological sort of idea about the Space Ritual, where he had the positions of everybody, various members of the band in different positions on the stage relative to their star signs, and with the corresponding colour that went with their star signs as the predominant light that was shining on them. And Barney sort of incorporated it within the Pythagorean music of the spheres. 5 minutes. I've got 5 minutes. Just it took a ride on a silver machine, and I'm still feeling extremely fucking mean. Do you wanna ride? See yourself going by the other side of the sky. I got a silver machine. It flies sideways through time. It's an electric line to your zodiac sign. It flies out of a dream. It's antiseptically clean, you're gonna know where I be. A silver machine. I got a silver machine. I've got a silver machine. I've got a silver machine. Thank you. And then, yeah, during this, we did this. You too, thank you. You're really lovely. I'll just sort of round off with. I'm just trying to think of. I'll just continue this story really about the space ritual. About the making of the space ritual. We had these very interesting and very creative dancers with the show. We had Miss Stacia, who was a very statuesque, sort of very lovely lady with, she was every schoolboy's fantasy. She was very large and she looked even larger standing on the stage, and she had huge breasts. And she used to dance around naked, covered only with body paint, much to the excitement of everybody. And I used to dance with her dressed up in a green frog suit, which was covered in astrological sort of signs and stars and moons.
Did anyone take any notice of 5 minutes?
5 minutes? Oh, I had a reprieve. It was 5 minutes ago. Yeah, so and we had a young American girl who was a sort of a contortionist and acrobatic dancer. Her name was Miss Renee. She was from San Francisco. She was a lovely girl. She was a friend of the Grateful Dead, but she had no teeth. Seriously. She was, no, I won't say anything rude. I don't like to talk about people like that. Yeah, we put the show together, and we had a mime artist, Tony Carrera, who was really very good. I used to see him at the Roundhouse in London when I lived there, and went to the Roundhouse a lot. And he'd studied under Marcel Marceau, and he's really a brilliant mime artist. He's always worked with me in various projects that I put together. And it was a fantastic success. I helped to choreograph it because at the time Robert Calvert, who'd written the scenario, had a sort of one of his depressive turns. Well, he had a manic turn and had a nervous breakdown and spent the duration of the sort of production of the show in hospital. So he was telling me how to direct the show by telepathy. So I did it with Barney and Jonathan Smeaton and help from our friends. And yeah, it was very good. And we took the show on the road. It was fantastic, actually. Had a fantastic light show. Had all the Pythagorean sort of information embedded in the lights to raise the people's consciousness and spirit, and they had the idea that this Hawkwind was a spaceship, and the audience were what powered the spaceship through time and space. So it was a very inclusive. It's all right, Martin. It won't be a minute. Like one of those Siren Movies when the villain appears. I'm only kidding, Mark. It's such a never-ending story, isn't it, really? And so we put the show together, and it was fantastic. And Michael Moorcock, he came, but he attended quite a lot of the shows because Robert wasn't there. I did poetry readings, and Michael Moorcock did as well, and it was a very exciting thing. Cool. Blimey. Yeah, we put the thing together and we recorded it, and it was actually, I mean, one thing I should tell you about was when we used to do gigs in London, I knew all these drug dealers, and particularly there was one guy that I'd grown up with who used to live down in Margate, and he was the brother of my best friend, and he turned up at my gigs and oh no, he insinuated himself upon me. A friend of mine was living here with him, and he used to mess him around a lot. And then he invited me to go and stay there, and I went to stay at the house. And this character was, we used to call him Larry the Mole. His name was Larry Gale. And he and some other guys had an acid factory, and they used to produce all this LSD, which they all used to come to my gigs with Hawkwind and give all this stuff away. And they give me bottles of the stuff. I had a refrigerator full of it. I thought, blimey, what am I going to do with this? I can't take all this stuff. And so I took it to Hawkwind gigs and gave it away to the members of the audience for quite a while. And I thought we were doing a service, really. And actually, I did it. I go busking sometimes. I used to go busking in Cardiff quite a lot, and haven't been lately. I like busking. I just go and stand on a street corner with a tambourine on my foot and play lots of dance tunes and get all the girls on the street dancing that are all out night clubbing. And I got this guy come up to me one day and he said, "Nik Turner, what are you doing here?" I said, "Well, you know, taking the music to the people, earning a buck." I said, "What are you doing here?" He said, "Fucking hell," he said, "that gig you did at the Barry Memorial Hall in 1971 changed my life." I said, "Yeah, it changed mine too, mate." I'll stop now. Thank you very much for listening to me. I'm thinking about taking this up as a profession and doing a lecture tour at universities and festivals. And maybe you could petition it for me. Thank you very much. Have a nice evening. Thank you.